Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Talking Disney Classics podcast. And this is the show where we like to talk about the Disney canon, sometimes just outside of the Disney canon, just Disney animation. And I'm film critic Rachel Wagner. Stanford's here.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. I'm so excited to talk to you about this because when we were pretty early on, I think it was into our second year that we were reviewing the canon. We took a break, one of our first bonus episodes. I think it was our 35th episode of Talking Disney that we covered a Goofy movie,
Yep,
and
yep.
which is a movie that I love. And it was so fun to find out that not only for the 30th anniversary that they were doing this whole documentary called Not Just a Goof. And so I watched it and I loved it and it was so fun. And so it was I was really happy when you wanted to talk about this documentary.
Yeah, Rach, thanks for you kind of the impetus to help me finish watching because I wanted to watch it
Yeah.
and um I loved it and I'm so excited we could talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I it's been a bit since I listened to that episode where we talked about a Goofy movie, but what are your feelings in general about the Goofy movie?
So, I mean, I hate to downplay myself. I'm an old man. I'm
Mhm.
Gen X. I'm not a
Yeah.
millennial. And
Right.
so I honestly feel like I'm a little aged out of a Goofy movie.
Okay.
Uh because when it came out, Rachel, I was 30.
Mm.
And so I'm j- I thought it was cute, but and also I'm such a feature animation slash, Walt Disney Animation Studios junkie that uh as well as a real, I'm really dislike uh Disney Toon type of stuff. And so I really
Mm.
felt like that's kind of where it came from. And I don't mean to be negative about it because I have just tons of respect for the film and I love that the cult following that it
Mhm.
has, I think particularly from millennials.
Yeah.
So I have nothing but respect for a Goofy movie. I just can't, it's not something that I necessarily grew up with just because of my
Mhm.
age. Yeah.
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 Well, I mean, I was in high school when it came out. I was, I think, probably a freshman. I was 14, so I was either eighth grade or ninth grade when it came out, and so in a way, it was like a perfect time for me for this story. And what I love about it is that there's so few Disney films that are relatable in this way, that are set in a high school, that have, like, I mean, I think that is one reason why a lot of people really do love Lilo and Stitch, is because it's one of the few kind of contemporary Disney films that
Yeah.
are like a fairly like normal family, normal, that's not in like a fairy tale or not in a futuristic city, or, that this is like fairly normal two sisters in
Yeah.
Hawaii, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Aside from having an alien, but whereas this obviously it's dogs, but like aside from that, it's like very contemporary.
Oh, absolutely. Again, yeah, the setting set in high school, this
Mhm.
father-son dynamic, you
Yeah.
know, the road trip, all the things. Power line, it's
Mhm.
just yeah,
Yeah.
it's very relatable. And that was so fun, I think, to see that
Mhm.
all be to be reminded of all of that in this documentary.
Mhm. Have you gotten to see it in the theater since
No.
its
I,
release?
I I did see it in the theater when it first came out, but
Hmm.
otherwise it's only been on, you know,
Hmm.
video, and I've watched it on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I got to see it one of the last movies that I saw at our friends at Maven Cinemas.
well, that's right. They did a
Hmm.
screening, right?
Hmm.
Were showing a Goofy movie.
Hmm.
Nice. I bet
Hmm.
that was a blast.
Hmm. It was so good. So good. And watching this documentary, it was really neat just to see how they pushed themselves harder than they needed to for this, this really was a labor of
This
love.
movie was made with so much love,
Mm-hmm.
and that was wonderful to see. Because not that I necessarily doubted it, but again, stupid me, I had really put it in kind of a category of
Yeah.
Disney Toon stuff, and that wasn't necessarily accurate or fair. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, and I think it is special when at least it feels like they could have taken in a film, could have taken the easy route, and they clearly challenged themselves. And I mean, there's like other some other examples that to me, like I think Smurfs: The Lost Village, like that movie did
yeah,
not need to be as artistically ambitious and is, in my opinion, entertaining, and that they really tried to make something beautiful,
yeah.
and they absolutely could have just made a throwaway
Just something
Smurfs movie.
stupid.
They
Yeah,
didn't need to do that. And of course, the ultimate example to me is Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. That there was absolutely no reason for a Puss in Boots sequel. Look what they just did with the sequel to Megamind, total garbage. And that they could have easily done that, still gotten their paycheck, and still,
yeah,
and it would
yeah,
have been. But they really like pushed themselves to make something special, and I think that that's admirable. Like it's one thing when you're the prestige project and everything. I'm sure it's still difficult and still, an achievement. But like, I don't know, I just appreciate that. Like scrappy, like we could make something junk, but or lazy or obvious, but we're gonna try extra harder.
exactly. And again, I just loved learning the details about it in this documentary.
Are you a fan of Rachel's reviews? Do you look forward to Family Movie Night, Female Film Critics panels, or the Talking Disney podcast? If so, please consider supporting the podcast by becoming a Patreon. As a patron, you get to access monthly events such as the watch-alongs and Q&As, where you get to talk to stars and find out the behind the scenes of the movie making industry. And you can pick what I review for Family Movie Night or even become a guest on the podcast. Podcasts and YouTube channels are expensive, and I really, really could use your help. I would so appreciate it. You also get to be a member of the Facebook group where we talk about all the films that we're seeing, and we have so much fun. Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies and select one of the Rachel's fan tiers. That's patreon.com/hallmarkies.
And I have to
Uh,
say, this documentary is like Jeffrey Katzenberg's finest hour. Never was Jeff
who
Katzenberg.
knew? I loved
Like,
how they animated him,
yeah.
you
I mean,
know?
he does have the moment where he wants to put Steve Martin voicing Goofy. That was a great moment, they have Bill do it, Bill Farmer, because he has like a meltdown about it, and so but they have him do it, and then they show it to Katzenberg, and he's like, no, this is no good, and so then Kevin Lima says it's just proof that the whim of an executive can change a movie if you don't fight back against a bad idea.
Yep. Well, and what was so interesting too is to learn that Jeffrey Katzenberg was championing this
Yes.
movie,
Yeah.
which I mean, I had no idea because it was all just, I mean, Lion King, Lion King, Lion King just before his ouster.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and then what we learned behind the scenes is that Jeffrey, this was a big deal to him. He wanted this movie to be really
Mhm.
good.
Yeah. Like I said, his finest moment.
Yeah,
Redemption. Katzenberg redemption.
it kind of was because
It really was.
I typically just despise him.
Yeah.
But that was, yeah, very, very interesting.
Yeah. So that was funny. And it was nice for this documentary. They had a animation along with so there was animated. It would have been really nice to if they could have gotten Katzenberg for the interview, but I'm sure they tried and he wasn't into it. But
Yeah, yeah.
that would have been fun. But this was a pretty fun solution
I
to
thought so too, that they did
animation.
this, yeah, really great animation. All these humans that we know that were involved in the making of the film, but done kind of in a goofy
Yeah, I mean,
goofy world style.
I was thinking to myself, I think you could enjoy this documentary even if you were like meh or like hadn't even seen a Goofy movie.
Oh, absolutely. I think anybody who's probably is remotely interested in filmmaking,
Yeah,
or
how things are
animation,
made.
that
Yeah.
because it's just so insightful to learn about the production. I mean, I knew that it was animated, well, because you can see it in the credits too, that it was
Mhm.
animated internationally. But wow, just kind of like
Yeah.
the drama and the challenges of that all and what was going on and in the
Yeah.
early 90s
Yeah. And it was animated in Disney France,
in
which is
France.
really interesting. Like
Yeah,
early on, who knows? They could have had the illumination people there.
right. And then at one point, the artists got kicked out of their offices and got moved down to a lower floor in the building because
Yeah.
they were going to start animating the Hunchback of Notre Dame there
Oh
in France,
my
and
gosh.
they got like a fancy remodeled office.
Yeah, it's like an office space where they're like they just keep moving and they got,
Yes,
in a
exactly.
smaller office and
Yeah,
smaller and
the
smaller.
guy who wants the
Where's my
stapler.
stapler?
Yeah.
I love that movie so much. Yeah. Well, and it was neat too because Kevin Lima had all of these personal behind the scenes video that they used. And so you got to see all of this footage for the first time.
Which was amazing. There was so much video footage of this production, behind the
Yeah.
scenes. That was really cool. And
My favorite part is because so we had all this videotaping of the cast recordings, and my favorite moment was when you see Jason Marsden and Kelly um Martin uh doing their voice and voicing the first kiss scene,
yeah,
and they actually kissed in the
yeah,
booth.
yeah,
That
that was
was pretty
great.
that was I thought really neat to
And
know.
yeah, because again, when does that happen? I always just think that these animated uh voiceovers are done just with it, individuals or
Yeah.
individually.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that was great.
it was so interesting to hear them talk about how because you have Goofy, who's kind of like just a comedic one note character, perfectly fine for a short, but can he do or even an episodic, Goof Troop? Perfectly fine for that, but can they make a feature film around it? And it's so interesting because where Disney usually, kills off all the parents, no parents, and for them to have Goofy be a parent was such a I think brilliant idea to
Yeah.
do and explore and something I'm trying to think of any other films. Certainly you have films with parents like Beauty and the Beast or with dads, Beauty and the Beast. You have Tarzan, her dad is there, like there's some parents, but I can't think of any that like that's the lead character is a dad.
Yeah. And that there's such an interesting arc for both Goofy and Max in the
Mm-hmm.
film.
Yeah.
I again, it is as we saw some of the fan reaction, kind of near the end of the documentary too, that was really evident. That was one of the things that was most touching
Yeah.
to
That got me.
people was Goofy and Max figuring out that they actually
Mhm.
both really love each other.
Yeah, and
Uh,
I think it's nice too it being the dad because I think that because our most people, their mothers are the one who just by nature, having birthed them and breastfeed them, taking care of them, that there's an easier natural connection sometimes. I mean, obviously it varies somewhat, but I know I feel like a lot of times it takes a little more work to get a relationship with our dads.
yeah, yeah,
And that's what this shows. And so this is their value in a smaller domestic story. And they really dived into that. And it was just so neat to see like Bill Farmer talking about it and how he
wasn't
had
that fun to hear
like
Bill
how he
Farmer, yeah, give his,
yeah.
yeah, yep.
And they're talking about different scenes like the high dad soup, that whole
Oh, I
scene.
know.
Oh.
It was so tender,
Yeah,
actually.
I also absolutely loved that behind the scenes of Frank Welker doing the Bigfoot. That
I
was
did too. It was
amazing. That
amazing.
was so cool. I love voice actors. They're incredible.
Yeah,
That was
that was so fun.
yeah. I'd like to take a second to thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's If Tomorrow Never Comes by Allison Ashley. This is the new novel that introduces us to Elliot Holland, who decides to live it up on the eve of a stem cell transplant to treat her leukemia. It's destiny when she crosses paths with handsome and charming Jamie Sullivan. The chemistry is magic, so is a beautiful evening that ends with a bittersweet kiss goodbye and no expectations of ever seeing each other again. But 1 year later, their paths cross again, and it's a lot of fun to see what is going to happen. If Tomorrow Never Comes by Allison Ashley is the perfect emotional and heartfelt title for your April TBR. It's a deeply romantic read for those wanting a love story about the right person, but maybe the wrong time, cross paths, and fated mates. Available to order now through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Bookshop, or your local bookstore, or use the affiliate link below. That's If Tomorrow Never Comes by Allison Ashley. Check it out today. And so Kevin Lima, he's like, I love musicals. I always wanted to be a musical. And I love the songs in Goofy Movie. They're so
They're
catchy.
fantastic.
Yeah. Really good.
And to learn that some songs that they love also got cut, which again,
yes.
I didn't know.
Yeah, there was a song from Roxanne.
Yeah.
There was a Bad Bad Boy song that I think for Max that was cut. And the Made in the Shade, a song called Made in the Shade was cut. But they got this. I mean, this guy Tevin Campbell, he was evidently working for Prince.
Yeah.
Which you can feel that.
And I got Tevin, I don't know if it was his debut album or what, but I had an album, it's called I'm Ready. He's so good. Tevin Campbell's great.
So
and then
good.
I thought they were able to get him, and clearly he aced it with Powerline.
Mm-hmm.
And what did they say? What did the producer say? Like he got the song done in 2 takes, right?
Yeah, stand out.
It's just like perfect.
2 takes, unbelievable.
Yeah.
They said that Eye to Eye was the hardest section
to animate. Which
and,
is interesting because you see as they're pointing out some of the details, like, oh yeah, that would be hard.
Well, they showed the dancers.
Weren't those live action references cool?
It was so cool because you don't think about it, but you have to have Goofy not dancing as well. And of course, Powerline's dancing super great. So you have to have varying levels of dancing.
Yeah. So they had those 3 dancers, like one representing Max, one representing Goofy, and then and then the choreographer, and clearly it was doing like the Powerline. So
one of the very interesting things about the documentary is that they were talking about when they were making the movie, there was a black dot on the monitor screen, and that black dot forced them to basically like almost reshoot the whole movie. And so because of this black dot, they had to move the release date. It was by like I think it was a whole year. And because they were moved to the release date and had to basically redo it, they were able to make like tons of changes. And Kevin Lima's like, I'm so grateful for that black dot.
Yeah, the black dot really saved him. Like, you wonder what that original cut would have been like. I guess the delay initially, I think, prevented the movie from being possibly as successful as it could have been, because with Jeffrey Katzenberg gone, by the time it got released, they lost their champion at the studio. And so no one else was sounds like really behind it. So they just kind of like, it was more like an obligation, right, to release it. Yeah. But it didn't play in as many theaters. It didn't have a big splashy premiere.
They didn't really have any merchandise, and it didn't do very well with critics.
Yeah. And that's what I remember, they showed Siskel and Ebert talking about it, which I thought was, it was interesting because I probably saw that episode because I watched them faithfully. Yeah. But some of the reviews, you're just like, what are you talking about? Like the one guy saying it's an incoherent mess. Like you cannot, if you don't like it, you don't like it. That's fine. But like, it's not an incoherent mess.
Incoherent. It's like very basic. The story is extremely simple.
I know that when I saw it the first place, again, with my stated bias of that it's Disney tune, stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It to me, I'm trying to think of like the right word, Rach, but seeing Goofy, uh, and really in a way, it's kind of a dramatic role
Mm-hmm.
was unusual. And
Well,
I'm
I mean,
not saying
that's
that it was
what's
bad, but that's what I think. Again, that's one of its strengths, and that's what
yeah.
why so many people love it.
Well, I mean, they say people were angry with us for not making Goofy goofy enough. And so yeah, that's like a reasonable critique. I just don't think incoherent mess.
No, that's
I just
not
don't think that's
fair.
a reasonable critique. Like I just
Yeah,
don't understand how that movie is incoherent.
yeah. No, I agree. Um,
So, but yeah, it's like the little film that could, and that was the age of the bubble case, or all the Disney movies where it had like extra protection for some reason, and Goofy movie was I think it was one of those things that it was like always there at like the Blockbuster, so you went to see it and people just started saying, oh, this is a good movie, why don't you watch this movie? And they were particularly talking about how the Black community at the time really embraced the film.
which I thought was fascinating. I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah, that was
And
cool.
and and then again that people would buy it on VHS. They're saying that it was typically a little less expensive than some of the other titles.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
and that's how I think how kind of the cult following really started, right? With people watching it, kids
Mm-hmm.
watching it at home.
Yeah. And what's interesting is that when they finally decided, okay, we're gonna have a Black princess in the Disney canon, they focus grouped Princess and the Frog to death, and they ended up with a movie where she's a frog for most of the movie, and it has its pluses and its fans. I'm aware, but it's so interesting to see something that like wasn't focus grouped to death, that was just an authentic movie that then the people find and champion themselves and aren't told you have to like this movie. This is made for you. You have to like it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And how like, I don't know. I just think that that's like such a better thing than this like carefully calculated, and for lack of a better word, kind of a DEI type of
Yeah.
diversity,
Yeah.
you know?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So
And
it
oh,
developed
go
this
ahead.
cult following, and they talk
Yeah.
about the first D23 panel mobbed.
Yes. Did you see? Were you there for that?
I don't think so. I think that
No,
was the one
I wasn't
before.
either. I was at that D23, but I didn't attend that Goofy movie panel.
Mm,
But it sounds like, I mean, who knows if I could have even gone in, right? That
yeah,
it was standing room only,
yeah, I would have
and
been.
they hadn't booked a big enough room for it because
Yeah.
people responded in such a way, and then that spurred Kevin Lima to maybe start doing some Googling, right?
Hmm.
And then discovering I loved all those video clips they showed of YouTubers,
Yeah,
just
really fun.
waxing emotional about how much they love this movie.
Hmm. Yeah, I know a lot of people that really aren't into Disney, aren't into animated films in general, and that love Goofy movie. Cody Leach is a YouTuber. He's not that big of an animation guy, and he was saying, oh, the how much he loves Goofy movie. That Goofy movie is great, and so it does have, it's a special film in that way.
I think it's one of the I mean, I think there are a few, like, seems like Treasure Planet, maybe, and not so much the land. Seems like, but like, they have gotten cult status, right?
Yeah,
Uh, and Goofy movie seems like this surpasses everything as far as like a Disney cult favorite, and
yeah,
I mean that in like all the best sense of the word.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really true, and you're just so happy for Kevin and his whole team.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies.
I mean, the only real flaw that I would have liked to have learned a little bit more about the composers and the music, because they're such catchy songs. But I do think the last 10 minutes was a little Disney propaganda-y about like we get to be part of like making people's lives better and part of the Disney way of living. And like there was this whole sort of like last 5-10 minutes was a little. I could have done without that.
I thought tonally it was uneven, and I agree with you. Like some of that stuff didn't seem necessarily authentic to me.
Yeah.
Not that they were lying or whatever, but it was just like, yeah, almost like too much like corporate rah-rah. Like, okay, we got to throw some positive stuff in, and maybe Disney's going to help us distribute this.
Which, like, I mean, especially it feels a little hollow when you've just barely been going on about how they didn't have any merchandise and they didn't promote the film and they put all these barriers and and stuff. And it's kind of like, oh, but they're Disney magic and all of that is a little silly. But
I also thought it was weird too, Rachel, again, me being kind of the purest jerk, but that they were showing all those clips from feature animation, and everything, like from Lady and the Tramp, the Snow White, and all these different clips, and then they're inserting a Goofy movie in there, and I think a Goofy movie is great, and I'm so glad that people love it, but I personally don't consider it to be with those classics. A lot of people probably do. I don't. So that I didn't really love that, but again, no one asked me,
I mean, I was fine with that in the sense of like it's a movie about Goofy movie, so of course they're going to include it with all of those. But and I think I probably would, to be honest. Like if they included a Goofy movie in the Disney canon, I wouldn't complain. I mean, there's highs and lows of. I mean, I know technically it's not from the same studio, so they probably wouldn't. But I'm just saying that, like, I feel like it's as good as most of those. Like, I'd put it like right in the middle as far as the Disney Renaissance. If you were going to include it in the Disney Renaissance, I think it's for me. It would be like in the middle. For there, I would put it probably below Mulan. For me. But yeah, I mean, it just gets a little corporate at the end.
But overall, as a documentary, though, again, there's enough. I think that it's edited quite well. The pacing's good. They've got all sorts of different interviews. The people that they talk to I think they're very interesting and articulate. So nice to hear Kevin Lehman's take on it, of course. And then as we talked about the little animated clips that they add in to tell the story about Jeffrey Katzenberg and whatnot are
it's a really
terrific, a really great way to tell this history.
It's a really good documentary. It's just like if you want to watch a documentary about the creative process and what's it like to get something from the bare bones idea and get it till it's finally made, and that'll just on that level it's really entertaining. And it was very well done, very well put together.
Yes.
Documentary.
Yeah, really a solid documentary. So I'm so glad that Disney has agreed to put it on Disney Plus, because it was not made by them. It wasn't made by Disney. It was made by another production company, which sounds like part of it was Kevin Lehman's nephew, right?
You mean the documentary wasn't made by them? Oh, I got it.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm talking. Yeah, I'm jumping to the documentary. Yeah, my bad.
Yeah,
but Kevin Lehman's nephew is
and that was touching at the end when he was talking. His nephew, just about like learning about the making of this movie has inspired him to make movies, and I said on Twitter, I said a goofy movie is an argument for optimism on many levels, but that something so lovely and positive can come out of Disney Toons or Disney TV, it was called at the time, during that era of the cheap goals is proof you should always give films a shot. And then I got a bunch of responses that Kevin, the critic, says, I saw an extremely goofy movie first and still liked it to this day. And this one goes above and beyond expectations. I liked it as a kid, love it as an adult. They put real heart into it and it shows. And then Sean Chandler, he was evidently talking to Kevin Lima, he said, over on his channel. So you should check that out. But Cody Leach, she says a goofy movie equals life. So that's a guy who does not normally like animation. So, and then Alex Townley says it's so underappreciated. I love it, always have, and always will. So that's a goofy movie. And yeah,
Not Just a Goof. This great documentary. Watch it on Disney Plus. That's where it's available now. It just I think started playing last week, right? On Disney Plus.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so glad again that Disney has agreed to show this documentary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I have a couple more. So Zilly says a nearly flawless movie. Jacob Beal says I watched it more than any other Disney movie growing up. To say it had an impact on me would be an understatement. For a long time, I felt weird saying it was my top 5 Disney movies, but now I'm proud of it. It's a funny road trip movie with heart and so much more. And Ryan says it's always been up there with me with the best of Disney Renaissance. And then another Israel says, yes, I will defend this movie till the day I die. The day I die. So people love it. People love it.
Yeah,
and,
people are so passionate about it. It's wonderful.
Film. So let us know what you think. And if you get to see this, Not Just a Goof, definitely let us know what you think and what you thought of the different parts of it. I would love to hear in the comment section or on Twitter. And Stanford, where can people find you?
I have a movie podcast at moviespastandpresent.com, and you can find it Movies Past and Present on wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. And you can follow us at Disney Talking on Twitter. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. We really, really appreciate that. And the more reviews that we get, the more the algorithm finds us. So if you review Rachel's Reviews, review the Talking Disney Classics, we sure appreciate that. And then if you are listening on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. And we're getting closer and closer to the 5K at the channel. So please, please, please subscribe. And we have our Patreon group, which is the biggest way you can support everything I'm doing. And we have monthly watch alongs and Q&As and bonus episodes and really try to make it worth your while to be part of the Patreon. And then we have our merch store. We have #Animation Junkie shirts and other fun movie merch. So check that out. And thanks so much, everybody. And we'll talk to y'all later. Bye.
Bye.